war that's in the United States. Because our government, or the government, not our, the government is engaged in so much violence on international level in the illegal war in Iraq, that violence blows back to us. Particularly harsh in poor communities, black communities, Chicana communities, communities that don't have a lot of resources to defend themselves. What we get is the militarized police and the mobilized developers who combine in terms of tearing up neighborhoods, tearing up homes, tearing up projects, tearing up streets, combining with the practices of massive, extraordinary levels of imprisonment, disinvestment, disemployment, and all this is followed by gentrification. And so these neighborhoods on which the war is most harsh become preserves for people far more affluent than those that are driven out.
Speak it, sister!
It's a variation on the theme, and every urban center that you can talk about, as you see gentrification of neighborhoods that were formerly poor communities. Because the war, the way the government takes the people's resources, tax resources and other investments, they deploy the resources outside to profit their corporations and make sure they are not available. They're not available for the use, for the education, for the health, or anything resembling quality of life for people in the community. So the level of militarization and disinvestment that we're subjected to here amounts to a war against the people.
Yeah!
And that's the war we should be opposed to. They're taking bodies out of poor communities to use as cannon fodder in a foreign land where they're not belong. When I was originally joining the Black Panther Party in the 1960s, we said that our communities were occupied by the police, that the police were an occupying outside army. So when we talk about war and occupation, the occupation that we should be opposed to, or at least recognize, is the occupation by the militarized police in neighborhoods in which the people are not treated as citizens, but more or less as movable property. We're subjected to a war of not of our choosing. Massive demonstrations all around the world tried to stop the war in Iraq, and they invaded anyway in March of 2004. The war is destroying our hopes, it's destroying dreams, and it's destroying the possibilities for a generation. And as you see, the silence about the war is deafening. As if it's inevitable, as if people can't stop it. Well, it can be stopped. So this war is a war that's putting the United States right back into the fold of imperialist aggressor. Now, there are many of you out there who remember when we said stop the imperialist aggression in Vietnam, stop the imperialist aggression in Cambodia. Well, they've come back. They've come back with the same old jackbooted invasion that we thought was a product of another century. Under the guise, they have a new guise, and that's the guise of fighting what they call a war on terror. Now, I'm part of a community that for generations had been subjected to all types of terrorism. Open terrorism, covert terrorism, Ku Klux Klan terrorism, police terrorism. It's very, very peculiar to me to hear the United States government saying they're engaged in a war on terror. A war on terror. I'm sorry, but terrorism has been their modus operandi in the communities that I'm a part of. When we were trying to get them to stop the terrorism in Mississippi, they couldn't, they had no way of doing it. So I want to know what this terror they're making a war on actually is. Because as Martin Luther King pointed out in 1967, when he said it was time to break the silence. He said the United States government has become the greatest purveyor of violence in the world.
Right.
And that he could no longer counsel young men to be nonviolent in the face of their government. So here we are, many, many years later, 2008. We live in a country that's administered by war criminals.
Right.
Those people who are in the White House and the Vice President's office and in the cabinet, etc., and some of them in the Pentagon, and some of them are no longer in office, could be, in a just world, charged and convicted of war crimes.
Right.
Even if they haven't been charged, they did it. We've seen them. We've seen them violate the sovereignty of independent countries that they have no business violating. We see them violating the sovereignty of independent communities that they have no business violating. We see an occupation of the space that should be for the people. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem that the party, Democrat, what do you call them, Republican, Democrats, whoever, that the parties of the powerful are not doing anything to stop, to challenge, or to end this war. So that means it's on the oppressed people, the alienated people, and the people of the world to join together in solidarity, put an end to the war, end to the occupation, empower ourselves, change this country for once again. Power to the people.
Too bad all those fools are over there listening to one crazy guy and just missed one of my heroes speaking, so. All right, we'd like to bring out another speaker.